Hey, what's going on, Ninth Age? This is Obsidian Anubis. Yes, I still do exist. Just been very busy. But here I have another battle report for you. This is just a small skirmish. Feral Orcs versus Dread Elves. Just a quick 1500 point list. And so we'll look at the armies. Alright, so for the Feral Orcs, I have a chariot on my far right. And then kind of in that forest, I have a group of 29 cave goblins with full command and a Madget. To the left of them, I have 5 Feral Orc boar boys. And then kind of excuse me. And then over here on my left flank, I have 15 Feral Orc Edbashers with a Feral Orc Chief, who's also the general, and my only character. The Feral Orc Chief has paired weapons and the plates of Tuk-Tak. And then over there on the far left, I have my 3 stone trolls in that field. Alright, so my opponent on the far right has 6 Harpies, and then 10 Blades of Knob, 5 Dark Acolytes, and a Captain on a horse, even though it's being proxied by a raptor rider, and he has joined that unit, and he's also my opponent's general. And then on my opponent's far left, they have a block of, looks like 20 Dread Legionnaires with spears and shields, and then an Oracle with witchcraft. Alright, so my opponent we ended up taking turns dropping, and my opponent won because I had more units. So they went ahead and took first turn, so you can see they moved up to their Dark Acolytes, or the cavalry, and they kind of moved everybody else, but everybody else was pretty cautious. So in my turn, you can see my spiders in the very top left. They vanguarded. I think I had 5 spiders with scouting, so they kind of moved up over there on my opponent's flank and started taking some pot shots. I went ahead and charged my feral orcs into my opponent. I might have failed a frenzy test, so I figured I might as well go ahead and just declare the charge anyways. So I moved them up, and then I kind of moved the goblins and the other feral orcs up as far as I could, and then as well as the trolls, because who knows how long they will stay under my control. In combat, unfortunately, my opponent managed to kill every feral orc before I even got a chance to swing, so that was unfortunate. So I didn't get any attacks there, and I lost 1 unit very quickly. So that brings us to Dread Elves turn 2. So my opponent decided to declare quite a few charges. So on the far right, my opponent charged the Harpies into my chariot, which I kept my chariot back, hoping that my opponent wouldn't be able to make that charge, but unfortunately rolled well enough and made that charge. Charged the Blades of Knob into the Goblins, which was just fine with me. I released my Madget as a stand and shoot, and ended up killing 5 of them before they hit into my Goblins, and I think my Goblins should be able to take care of at least 5 Elves, hopefully. And then on the left, you can see my opponent charged the Feral Orcs with his riders and his general. On the kind of left-hand side, my opponent actually just kind of turned the face of my spiders, which actually worked out well for me, because maybe I could do a flank charge with my trolls if I happen to get lucky next turn. Alright, so in combat, in the center of the board, it went fairly well. My opponent killed, looks like 3 or 4 of my feral orcs, which wasn't too bad, and I managed to kill 4 of his raiders instead and put 1 wound on his general. So his general and my general were locked in a challenge. So that worked out pretty well for me. I didn't take any wounds on my general, and I put 1 on him. And I think I won combat, but not enough to make my opponent break. Over with the goblins, you can see my opponent killed 6 of my goblins, which was pretty good for only having 5 models. However, I did manage to kill 4 of my opponent. My opponent's either won or just lost barely, so stuck around, which is fine. Hopefully my goblins can get rid of one blade of knob. And then over here on the far right, you can see my chariot. It managed to completely wipe out the harpies, which was fantastic. So on my turn, which is actually what this picture is, I attempted to charge my chariot into my opponent's wizard, but I failed that charge, so you can see I just kind of pedaled forward a little bit. You can see I charged the trolls and the spiders into the top left, Dread Reapers. I probably should not have charged my spiders in. They would probably just want to get killed before they could do anything. But this was just kind of a friendly game, and I had them there, so I'm like, I'll go and just charge them in. So in combat, on the top left-hand side, you can see my spiders got wiped out, so that was as expected. However, I think the spiders went Sima with the elves because I had charged, so we were both agility 5. And I did manage to kill 1 or 2 spearmen with the spiders before they were all destroyed. My trolls, on the other hand, went to work. They ended up killing like 5 or 6 of the Dread Reapers or Dread Legionnaires and took no wounds in return. My opponent did pass the panic test and did manage to do the reform test, so they were able to face me. But it worked out pretty well in my favor, so I'm not complaining about that. Yeah, so here's back to my opponent's turn. You can see my opponent move the wizard on top of the hill, turn to face my trolls. Unfortunately, on my last turn, that one dancer on the bottom right killed like 4 goblins. I couldn't do a single wound to the freaking elf, so unfortunately it stuck around for a little bit longer. So at the end of this turn, which is the end of my turn too, I managed to kill the one remaining Dark Rider. My goblins finally managed to kill off the last dancer, in which I turn and face, so I'm facing my opponent's cavalry, or my opponent's captain, I guess, which is left. And then in the top left, my trolls managed to break the Dread Legionnaires and pursue them off the board. So this is my opponent's turn 3 and my turn 3. So you can see my trolls have finished killing off those Dread Legionnaires. My opponent's wizard is now fleeing with 1 wound. I think they got the wound from a miscast earlier in the game. They rolled like 3 6s on a spell and managed to put 1 wound on them. I think my chariot just charged it again and my opponent just fled. You can see at the bottom right of this corner, my goblins charged into the flank of my opponent's general. I mean, they won't get a fight. My opponent general and my character were in a challenge, so nothing was going to happen anyways, but just for combat res to maybe break my opponent. But I ended up not needing them because my general finally managed to finish putting the last 2 wounds on my opponent's general and kill him. So it worked out pretty well. So this is actually the end of the game. Like I said, it was a pretty short game. It was just a skirmish, just a quick 1,500 point game. We've both been pretty busy, but we wanted to just at least put some figures on the board. So really enjoyed it. It was just a nice kind of quick game. We didn't have a secondary objective or anything. It was just kind of a grind there. And my opponent wanted to try out Dread Elves again for a little bit, so it was a pretty fun game. We enjoyed it. But yeah, so that's the end of the battle report. If you guys have any comments or any concerns, please put those in this section below. If you guys would like to see anything, hopefully I'll get some more videos. I do have a tournament coming up in, actually just next weekend, over in Portland, so the March to War, over here in the Pacific Northwest, which me and my opponent are going to, so we are really excited about that. So hopefully that goes well, and I should be able to get battle reports from that, so then I can maybe get a few more battle reports on the channel. But as always, game on.